So given the equation, we want to write it in slope-intercept form. So when you see this direction, you're really solving for y in whatever equation you're given, which means I'm going to leave the y term alone and move everything away from it. So the plus x over here, the positive x, I need to subtract from both sides. And that's just using the subtraction property. So bring down the minus and the 4y equals a negative x plus 8. You could also write that as 8 minus x. Means the same thing. Divide both sides now by negative 4. And when I do that, I'm going to split it up because I want it in this form, y equals mx plus b, two separate terms. So I'm going to keep the two separate terms and divide everybody by negative 4. So that when I reduce, I get y equals a negative 1 divided by negative 4 is a positive 1/4 x. Notice I didn't change it to a decimal, leave it as a fraction. And then a positive 8 divided by negative 4 is negative 2. So now it's in slope-intercept form. To identify the slope, that's the number in front of x. That's my m. So my m in this case is 1/4. The y-intercept is the initial point or the b value. In this case, mine is negative 2. So if I wanted to graph this, and it didn't ask me to, but just a little fun fact, if I plot the anchor point first, negative 2 on the y-axis, the slope is telling me to go up 1 and over to the right 4. So I'm going to go up 1 unit from my anchor point, go over 4, plot the point, and then I can sketch in the line connecting those two dots. Example 14 is asking to find, or it's giving you the relationship between the balance B in dollars left on a mortgage loan and N, the number of monthly payments, pay attention to the word monthly here, is given by B equals 428,400 minus 1,020 N. And the question is B, is the balance a function of N? Explain your choice using the definition of a function. Well, for definition of a function, we're looking for each input, N in this case, is there exactly one output, B? And the answer to that is yeah. If you're just thinking about paying off a balance of anything, if you make a payment, you're going to have one new balance. You're not going to have multiple new balances. So the answer to this is yes, B is a function of N, and the reason for that is for every monthly payment, which is N, there is exactly one new balance. Okay, notice I didn't just say for every input there is one output. Because again, if you say that, I don't know what your input is and I don't know what your output is. If you want to use the word input and output, you got to tell me for every input N of monthly payment, there is exactly one output, the new balance B. You got to use the words that are in the word problem here. What are the units of the 428,400 in this equation? And what does it represent in terms of the problem? I know that number's the y-intercept, but that's not what we mean in terms of the problem. In terms of the problem, a y-intercept is an initial amount. So the question is, it's an initial amount of what? And if we look back at the problem, it's going to be the initial amount or the initial balance of our loan in dollars. So we're looking at the initial loan amount is, and then just go ahead and put your dollar symbol in there, $428,400. That's what your starting balance is, or your initial loan amount. What are the units of the 1,020 in this equation, and what does it represent in terms of the problem? I know it's the slope because it's in front of the variable. So I know it's a slope, but they want it in terms of the problem. So our units on that will help us out in figuring out what's going on. So in this problem, we're talking about dollars, and our unit label for our yearly, or our unit label that's representing a time unit is in months. So in this problem, it's going to be $1,020 per month. And that's the amount that your balance is going to decrease by, because it's a negative in front, each month. So we decrease by $1,020 each month. All right, it's an average rate of change, so it's got to be some amount per and then some time unit. What is the balance? So we're looking for B in this equation on the mortgage after 12 years. Now this is a little tricky because you want to think you can just plug in the number 12 for N and then solve it out, but remember N represents months. So I have to think about how many months are in 12 years. So in 12 years, there's 12 months per year. So I'm looking at 144 months. So now I go back to my equation, B equals, and I plug in that 144 for the letter N. So 428,400 minus the 1020 times 144 is going to give me the balance after 12 years. So my balance is going to be 281,520. Okay. For the last one here, how many years will it take to pay off the mortgage? To pay off the mortgage means I'm not going to have a balance anymore. So my balance is going to be 0. So I'm going to plug in a 0 for my balance, 428,400 minus my 1020. And I'm looking for now the number of years. But keep in mind, when I solve for N, I'm getting the number of months, not years. So I'm going to have to convert back and get years. So to solve this, I'm going to leave this term alone and move the other one over by my subtraction property. So I have a negative 428,400 equals, bring down the negative sign. And because the 1020 is hooked by multiplication to the letter N, I'm going to divide off by the negative 1,020. So the negative 1,020 divided by itself is going to cancel out to 1N equals, and then use your calculator to do that division. It comes up, I believe, 420. But then the unit label here, remember, our N was in months. You got to go back to the original problem to see what the label was. So the question is, how many years is in 420 months? So we're going to divide by 12. And the reason for that is in 1 year, there's 12 months. So the months cancel, multiply straight across. 420 times 1 is 420 years divided by 12. That's why we divide by 12. And you come up with 35 years.